is going on YouTube? It is your boy MrBaboon back with a reaction video. We are reacting to Catherine the Great, and this is going to be like the little series, right, for actual history. There's going to be 6 episodes, I do believe. So we're going to be reacting. I think I might try to get all 6 done tonight, hopefully. It's 10:42, so hopefully I can get them all done tonight. We're going to be reacting to Catherine the Great. So, video will be in the description. The channel link for actual history will also be down in the channel. In the description. If you guys want to find it, you guys can. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications if you guys are new. Let's kind of get into this. Let's go ahead and get into this. Let's go like.
A young girl sits alone in a cold room in a great house on the German coast and dreams of being a queen. That girl's name was Sophia, or Sophie, depending on who's writing about her. She was born in the spring of 1729, but her mother would never forgive her for the crime of being a girl. Her mother, young, ambitious, always wanting to be the center of attention, was deeply discontent in her life, having been married off at 15 to a man 21 years her senior. Worse still, that man was poor, at least by her standards, and stuffy. Her life was nothing like the glittering court that she'd known as a girl. She still had ambition. She still wanted to escape her husband's drab military post, to live in high society and see the world. And to her mind, that required a male heir. And so, poor Sophia was neglected, often told that she was ugly, yelled at for minor offenses, or simply left entirely alone. What? She was bright and could memorize things with ease, but she frequently infuriated her tutors by asking questions like, why were the great men of antiquity damned just because they lived before Christ? Or, what was the universe like before creation? She found solace only in the lessons she was taught by one of her governesses, who introduced her to French and brought her books by Racine and Molière. And all the while, her mother doted on her sickly and infirm brother, who'd been born a year and a half after she'd entered the world, unwanted. Sophia would always harbor a resentment over the treatment she received compared to her brother, but...
Hi, it's Will from Booker Law.
There you go.
If you use Steam, the PC game platform, you could be in touch.
But in 1742, when she was 13, her brother died, succumbing to scarlet fever. She had one other brother who would survive their youth, but he was a half-decade younger, and so now, at last, her ambitious mother's eye finally turned to her. But she didn't receive the warmth and the affection that she'd hoped for. Her mother's aim was to see her married. After all, her mother thought, taking her daughter out in search of a match, to travel and get back to court, might provide a path to escape her drab life. Unfortunately, her daughter was proud, impertinent, and arrogant, or at least so she felt. If there was to be any attempt at matchmaking, she was going to have to break Sophia of these habits. And so, Sophia learned to hide her pride, to hide her talents, and her mother began writing and visiting.
Okay, so she wasn't called Catherine the Great yet. Well, honestly. So, her birth name was Sophia, right? I think.
All of their relatives in search of a match. And she made sure that Sophia knew just what failing to find a match would mean. From time to time, she would take Sophia to see spinster relatives locked away in a convent, or shut away in a remote wing of a family house. One of these encounters Sophia would remember forever. An aunt who lived in one small room with 16 pug dogs. 16 pugs who did everything that dogs do in that one room. The smell would haunt her for all her days. So she rapidly became enamored of the idea of marriage. She saw it as a way out, an escape from her mother. But her prospects were limited. Her father was not a man of great means, and though he was a prince of one of the tiny principalities that then made up the Holy Roman Empire, he wasn't even the prince of that domain, having others in the line of succession before him. Her mother, on the other hand, was of the House Holstein-Gottorp, one of the great houses of the Holy Roman Empire. And though she was from a minor branch, she could still reach out to all her cousins. And so it was that, even before her brother died, on a visit to her uncle, Sophia met the orphaned Duke of Holstein, Peter Ulrich, 11 years old at the time. This young man was the
How
heir
old
to
was
the
she at
throne
this
of
time?
Sweden and the last surviving grandson of Peter the Great. He was also sickly, though, doughy of features, and even at the age of 11, given to drink. This meeting would
What?
prove fortuitous in years to come, or disastrous depending on how you look at it. But long
Like-
before that chance encounter was to change her life, as she was making the rounds,
So she is. How old is she? I don't remember how old she is, but that one that we just saw is 11, doing all that, right? And then, so, bro, I got so many questions.
looking
I'm
for a
just wondering-
suitor.
I'm just gonna
Attention
wait.
of this type fell on her much closer to home. At the age of 14, a 24-year-old cuirassier, her cousin, began to, what was called at the time, show his affections, often finding her in some secluded corner of the house when no one else was around to kiss her. He eventually proposed to her, although she expertly put him off by agreeing to it only if he could get the consent of her parents. Then, in the middle of dinner one night, a letter came. It was from Russia, from the Russian Empress, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, whose sister had married a Holstein. Elizabeth, who was the aunt of Peter Ulrich. Elizabeth, who had been betrothed at one point to Sophia's uncle. Elizabeth, whose association Sophia's mother had been very careful to cultivate, regularly sending her news and portraits of her daughter. Elizabeth had recently become the guardian of young Peter Ulrich, adopting him as her own. And as such, young Peter had lost the right to the crown of Sweden, but had gained a much greater prize: succession to the crown of Russia.
Oh.
Elizabeth's letter said nothing of its purpose, but simply implored Sophia and her mother to travel at once to Russia. Despite the
so we
letter's
gotta go to
vagueness,
Russia.
the implications were clear. Sophia might yet find her way to being a queen, as she had so often daydreamed. But the night's surprises weren't over yet. Mere hours after the first letter's arrival, a second courier, breathless and panting, burst into the house. He too had a letter, but this one was from Frederick the Great, summoning them
Frederick.
to his court in Berlin. Sophia's mother wasted no time starting
If you
to
guys want to know more about Frederick the Great, search up MrBaboon reacts to Frederick the Great, episode 1, and it should pop up, hopefully. So search it up if you guys want to find out about Frederick the Great. He was definitely interesting to learn about.
pack. The invitation to Russia had come with a banknote for 10,000 rubles to equip them for their journey. This, of course, went not to making sure that Sophia looked like a bride that they had both hoped she would be, but instead went towards outfitting her mother with a splendid array of court dresses. And so they began their journey, first to Berlin and then to Moscow. When they arrived at Berlin, Sophia's mother raced to present herself to Frederick, but to her shock, he simply asked where her daughter was. She hadn't taken Sophia with her to court, thinking that the king couldn't possibly want to talk to the girl more than to her incredible self. So she said that Sophia was sick.
Bro,
The
what?
next day, too, she showed up at court alone, and again Frederick asked where Sophia was, and again her mother said that she was sick. On the third day, Frederick pressed the issue, and Sophia's mother said that she couldn't come because she had nothing to wear. At which juncture, a somewhat miffed Frederick the Great cut her off and asked one of his sisters to just lend the poor girl a dress, please. Finally, Sophia appeared before the king, in an ill-fitting
Frederick
dress
the
without
Great.
jewels or finery. She was shy, worried about what this great man might think. But to her surprise, and undoubtedly the surprise of her mother, she was seated at dinner that night right next to the king. Her mother wasn't even seated at the same table. The king tried to make her feel comfortable, speaking to her of poetry and of the opera, plays and ballet. And though everybody stared at the king talking to a child, he continued on and she opened up, speaking to him throughout the meal. By the end,
Bro,
he
Frederick
saw
was
in her,
hungry.
hidden just below that layer of humility, an intelligence and a perception. He wrote to Elizabeth of Russia to say as much. He had been assessing her, because in his bid to make Prussia a player on the world stage, he had already created many enemies, and he knew that he
Yeah,
would have to have
Frederick
Russia on his side. It was his hope that this German princess could help ensure that. But his business was
he-
not just with
he tried to
Sophia.
make her
In
queen?
private, his agents asked her mother to be their agent in the Russian court. They explained how one Count Bestuzhev was the sworn enemy of Prussia, and that he would stop Sophia's marriage if he could. And so Sophia's mother, Johanna, should do everything in her power to make him lose favor. Never again would these two rulers meet in person. These rulers whom history titles the Great. But it's far from
So
the
they
last
only
time
met-
that their paths will cross.
Okay.
Join us next time as Sophia finally...
So, I mean, it kind of seems like Frederick the Great kind of wants to get her to become queen and some stuff like that. I don't know. I definitely got a lot of questions. But we are definitely going to be finding out, hopefully, those answers for those questions in episode 2. Let me know what you guys think about episode 1. We got Frederick in here. If you guys want, definitely go check out his. Also by Actual History, if I'm not mistaken. So go watch the Frederick the Great episode 1 through, I think, 5 or 6. Pretty interesting videos to watch him on. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I'm going to see you guys in episode 2. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are. Positivity is key, motivation is key, happiness is key. I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys stay safe. Watch out for each other. I'll see you guys in the next one. You guys stay safe.